AEW All In 2023 quick thoughts. Overall, the show was pretty good, and having 81,000 people in attendance is no small feat. I'm not the biggest AEW fan in general, mostly because of this doofus, but I commend them for being able to put this event together and make it good despite the rather lackluster build. But now let's get into my actual more in detail thoughts on the show. Starting with the 0-hour pre-show, which I didn't watch.
You what?
Alright, put the pitchforks down. I never watch WWE or AEW pre-shows because they're never worth watching. They're never interesting, there's never anything on them. In fact, I think I made my opinions of pre-shows in general very clear on this episode of the Court Martial Podcast where I sent Sean McCarty some notes and I said this.
Also, no, I didn't watch the pre-show. Pre-shows aren't people and shouldn't vote. I mean...
So if you don't like the fact that I didn't talk about the 0-hour pre-show, all I have to say is this.
Go cry me a river.
Now moving on to the opening contest. CM Punk versus Jack Perry in an SVR 2010 backstage brawl, where if Jack Perry lost per match stipulation, he would have to come to the ring in a stroller wearing a bib for the rest of his tenure in AEW. So naturally and unsurprisingly, CM Punk won the match via submission with the Anaconda Vice. In all seriousness, can we please stop with the backstage horseshit, please, AEW? Tony Khan, grow some f***ing balls and start punishing people for f***ing sake.
That's not good enough.
I want to like this show, but bullshit like this going on all the time makes it impossible to not point and laugh at you and your company. Also, Jungle Turd can go... The actual opening contest was CM Punk versus Samoa Joe for the real World's Championship, and I commend CM Punk for doing double duty on this show and wrestling Joe immediately after taking out the trash. While this match didn't come close to reaching the heights of their famous clashes in ROH from almost 2 decades ago, this was still a pretty solid match. My favorite spot of the match was Joe slamming Punk into the side of the announce table, causing it to break in a very violent visual. Although, do we really need juice in the first match of the show? I mean, what is Jon Moxley supposed to do now? Now, like, 97% of all he knows how to do has already been done. Maybe if he, actually had talent, it wouldn't be such a problem, but for shame, Punk. For shame. I also got a huge laugh out of CM Punk stealing John Cena's shoulder tackles and Hogan's leg drop. And I love that he won with the Pepsi Plunge. Good opener, and one of my favorite matches on the show. Up next, we had a trios match. Tony Khan's absolute favorite match stipulation that he always drowns his cards in. It was Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Hangman Adam Page versus Jay White, Konosuke...
Take a shitter?
And this unappealing, loud, irritating, hellspawn love child of Mojo Rawley and unprocessed corn. While the match was a bit long and probably could have benefited from shaving 5 minutes off of it, and much, much, much less Juice Robinson, it was also pretty good as it clearly served as a continuation to the build to Kenny Omega versus...
Take a shitter?
At All Out next weekend. But why couldn't we have gotten Omega versus Jay White 101? It's fine. Everything is fine. Best part of the match for me was the finish, with Omega V-triggering everyone into oblivion until
Take a shitter?
Rolled him up for the shock pin. This is honestly exactly how I would have booked it to a T, so no complaints here, other than me wanting Juice Robinson to be euthanized. Our third match was FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team titles, and was the rubber match between the two teams. And the Young Bucks better be grateful that this wasn't a no disqualification match, because if it was, Cash Wheeler would have pulled a gun on them and the show would have ended very prematurely. Like the previous match, this went on for way too long, and they did basically every move known to man. That said, it was enjoyable as these two teams do have solid chemistry in the ring, and I enjoyed the callbacks to their previous encounters. That and the finish shocked me. I was not expecting FTR to go over clean, so my guess is Cash Wheeler threatened to shoot Tony Khan if they didn't win, so I don't know. Good match, but I wouldn't pull a Dave Meltzer and give it 85 stars. And then we had Stadium Stampede. And I skipped it.
What?
Okay, before you get mad at me, over on the Court Martial Podcast, whenever me, Sean, and Skylar do really long pay-per-view reviews, whenever we do review pay-per-views, we are allotted one skip. If there's ever a match where we just take one look at it and we're like, I don't want to watch that match, we are allowed to skip one match. And for these quick thoughts, I'm keeping to that. I have no interest in seeing any more matches like this. There's one match like this on every single AEW pay-per-view forever. They are all the same. They are all identical. I'm over it. I don't care. Next. But then, in the death slot after all of this insanity, we have the 4-way Women's Championship match, aka the only women's match on the show. Good to see that Tony listens to his fans. It was Hikaru Shida defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Saraya, Toni Storm, and Dr. Britt Baker. The match was honestly much better than I expected it to be. It actually had a story, the implosion of the Outcasts, which isn't exactly the best or most interesting story, but it's better than just a bunch of moves, I guess. I laughed out loud twice during this match, once when Toni Storm accidentally punched Saraya's mom in the face, which also made me wish that back before SummerSlam that Brock Lesnar would have F5'd Cody Rhodes' mom. That would have been hilarious. And again, when Ruby Sucks My Ass came out, got punched one time, and left. She came all the way to Wembley to get decked once and then dip. Absolute comedy. Better than having her try to wrestle. Oh, and then Saraya won because Tony Khan doesn't want us to have nice things. The only way I'll be okay with this is if Mercedes Moné joins AEW officially and wins the belt from Saraya with a well-placed kick to the spine. Up next, we had Darby Allin and Sting versus Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage in a coffin match. A common complaint that I have with AEW is that they ruin good matches by having them go on for way too long. This is the match where I really started to feel it because this went on forever. It was good and I enjoyed it, but can we please show some restraint? Please?
No! No! No!
And again, this is the third hardcore brawl-styled match on the show. 1 would have been fine, 2 would have been pushing it. Luckily for me, I didn't watch the other 2 because I have better things to do than to watch whatever this dumb shit is. As for this match, I still enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that Sting didn't try to kill himself with a ridiculous dive this time. Even though Darby Allin attempted to become a paraplegic when he did a coffin drop on a coffin.
Don't you think that would be a little redundant?
Also, Swerve Strickland is a star and has money written all over him. I love this guy. Again, this was good, but would have been better if the length was trimmed a bit. Following the coffin match, we had Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho, aka the best match Jericho has had in years, and a considerable step down from what Ospreay has been doing for the past couple of years. Originally, I believe Tony Khan wanted Omega versus Ospreay 3 at the show, but New Japan was like,
No, Ospreay is my whore! I wanted it Wrestle Kingdom and I want it bad!
Excuse me. So we got this downgrade instead. It's like tempting me with McDonald's and taking me to Burger King. But this was still pretty good. I enjoyed the story of the aged veteran Jericho doing his best to keep up with the much faster and younger Ospreay. There was even a batshit crazy Rana counter that I have no idea how Jericho pulled it off. And then Jericho tried to steal the Oz Cutter and ended up spiking himself into the canvas. Can't win them all, I guess. The right person won, although I personally would have not had Chris Jericho kick out of the Stormbreaker, but whatever. And no, I didn't watch Jericho's shitty concert before the match because I don't have the money to book another therapy appointment. And then, we had another trios match. Damn it, Tony Khan, what is with you in trios matches? This was my least favorite thing on the show. House of Black defending the AEW trios titles, which is a stupid championship concept that shouldn't exist, but what the ever, against my least favorite act in the entire company, The Acclaimed. Matchcaster's raps are basic, boring, stale, and only ever contain references to whatever's controversial at the time of the show. Anthony Bowens just screams, and Billy Gunn only knows how to do 3 moves. I'm so over these one-note goobers it's not even funny. This just wasn't very good. It was just moves, and then moves, and then more moves, and then even more moves, and then The Acclaimed won because Tony Khan enjoys making me hate his company. The previous trios match was way better and should have been the only one on the show. This should have been on the 0-hour pre-show, and I wish it was because then I wouldn't have had to see it. Oh, and the House of Black came out dressed in white. Because f*** you. And finally, mercifully, we had our main event. MJF defending the AEW World Championship against Adam Cole. And while I like both of these guys and overall enjoyed the match, once again, this went on way too long, and they kicked out of every single move that has ever existed within the confines of the multiverse. But it's Adam Cole, so you are guaranteed to see 100 finisher kickouts, so I'm not surprised. But holy shit, this Steel Step Brainbuster was the most brutal thing in the entire show. My god. MJF must have a neck made out of steel, dude. Seriously. His neck is so strong that it makes Saraya salivate with envy. But the highlight of this match was the story being told throughout, and genuinely I did not know who was going to turn on who or how this would play out, which is exactly what you want and need from wrestling. And the finish, Cole refusing Roddy's help only to immediately get pinned because of it, was honestly perfect. Very good main event, despite a couple of the reservations I had. In conclusion, All In was a good show and a landmark achievement for AEW that they should be very proud of. Nothing was awful, that I watched anyway, and there were plenty of good matches despite some questionable booking decisions. And on these quick thoughts, I will give a rating score from 0 to 10, and for AEW All In 2023, I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Good show, despite some issues here and there, and despite one absolute dipshit who tried to ruin it before it even started. Look forward to next week when... Oh shit. There are 2 pay-per-views this weekend.